We are borrowing over 2 billion rand every single day. And even on his tight spending plan, our debt will gobble up over 95% of our budget by 2025. But despite that, there's still money for SAA's business rescue. Let's discuss this now with Economist Dr Lumkile Monde. Good evening, Dr. Monde. Thank you very much for your time. What did you make of the medium-term budget speech?
So, Sally, let's locate this medium-term budget policy statement within the broader South African context, where the nature of the political settlement in 1994 has led to the creation of social processes that have created a black elite, both in business as well as in politics. And in addition to that, business, the formal sector business, which was controlled by whites during apartheid, has continued to run by whites. As a result, many black entrepreneurs have found themselves no avenue to exploit opportunities. Therefore, they've turned to the state as a source of opportunities through black economic empowerment and procurement, as we've seen. And that has led to the devastation of the state resources. Therefore, the understanding of where we are today is very similar to the 1985 disaster under P.W. Botha, where Rubicon had to be passed. And in 1994, we were able to do that under Mandela, who said, you know what, this is the path, take it or leave it. Now, under Ramaphosa, this budget is being presented, and it's being presented in a way whereby there is no clear path about how South Africa is going to come out into a mess, which has been created by these social processes I've described, where a black elite believe that it's entitled to misuse and access opportunities and bankrupt the state, hollow out many capabilities, whether it's SARS, we're talking to Edward earlier, or any other institution, prosecuting authorities. Now we're rebuilding, and yet we've got so much debt, and at the same time, we still believe that a state-led development is possible.
So where do we go to from here? Did you see any positive signalling from Tito Mboweni? It was interesting that he started his speech referencing when Nelson Mandela came to power in 1994 and sort of saying that the challenges in many ways are similar. He has taken a slightly softer approach to debt than he wanted to, which was really austere, and many people were concerned that would absolutely take the oxygen out of any potential growth plans. He's now saying in 5 years' time we'll be at 95% debt to GDP, which is astonishing, but he's hoping we stabilise at that point. Is there enough in this budget plan to give you confidence that that is exactly what will happen?
Absolutely, Zilch. Remember, the Treasury has lost a lot of credibility. It is the one that in 2009, under Pravin, went on an expansionary fiscal stance, particularly driven by state-owned enterprises, which has led to capture. But more importantly, Sally, all the revenue forecast, all the GDP forecast were not met. Even when we realized they're not met by the Treasury, they continued spending whilst revenue collections were declining, and then the state capture just worsened our position. So what I'm saying is that the document Treasury released last October around how we can move out has been defeated. So what we see is that there's a power shift from the Treasury to the presidency. And in the presidency, there's a view that says we have to drive investment, even if it means we must increase debt. So the increase to about 95% of GDP is a state-led development agenda through infrastructure, as we've seen the President Economic Recovery Plan. Whether that's going to be successful to create the green shoots that you're looking for remains to be seen as to whether does state-led development means calling on the capabilities of the private sector, given the state weaknesses that were hollowed out under state capture and the inability of our president to bring in new skills into that, and the reliance of cadres, because cadre development is continued under the ANC regime. So what I'm saying is that it makes me very uncomfortable to believe that this new plan and the recovery is going to sustain itself, when in fact the processes that I spoke about are continuing. Care deployment is continuing. There is no accountability in the processes such as PPE, us calling on the SIU to try and deal with it. So until we see action that is credible, it takes really...
We are seeing people in court on corruption charges, and there has been a flurry of of accountability and arrests, which suggests, obviously we're still waiting for the convictions, that maybe the tide is turning. You're saying too soon?
Convictions. Only when convictions are done.
So you're saying
so at the moment it's all playing around with pawns and shifting them up until that is done. Remember, Sally, to gain credibility, it's a process. And a good example of gaining credibility we've seen in the central bank, where under Kganyago there's been credibility. When Kganyago and his team says interests are going to go up, they go up. When they start going to come down, they're going to come down. Similarly, the Mbeki Manuel and Mandela Manuel partnership, similarly, the fiscal discipline, when Mandela and Manuel said this is the way, or Manuel Mbeki, this is the way, there was discipline. Under Zuma, Gordon, and other ministers, because there have been so many finance ministers in the past 5 years, under those, we have heard stories. And nothing that will make us gain credibility that, you know what, we've got our finances under control. I
think credibility is a relationship. It's a building of trust. I have to ask you about SAA. Opposition slamming it. Obviously, NUMSA very happy about it. And I'm sure that the people who are working for SAA, desperately waiting for those severance packages, will be happy. Do you see this as a straight political decision?
Yes, absolutely. Remember, even the minister should be embarrassed. I saw him trying to justify that he's not a bailout, it's a bailout. But in reality, if you were so much caring about SAA, you will have put money much earlier and make sure that it doesn't go to business rescue. So I think the politics of the rescue was dealing with the pilots, because the pilots apparently were the ones not willing to come to the party to find a settlement. So going through this process, they were able to defeat, and they hope that they can be able to lower costs and really put that 10.5 billion rand to use and have another SAA that will welcome the world to Africa and take us to the world.
Tito Mboweni is putting a lot of his hopes in terms of fiscal recovery on keeping that public service wage bill low, actually not moving much at all. And it was interesting, during his speech, he was praising the public service, but if you go through what our reporters are receiving in lockdown, it's clear that they're not wanting to move on the increases that the unions are hoping for. Do you think that there's any chance at all that Tito Mboweni can keep fending off the unions and keep those wages low?
So, Sally, let me just quickly. Most of those increases that we saw went to mainly doctors as well as nurses. These have come handy in this pandemic. So, and most importantly, highly mobile, because, you know, these skills, the health skills, we know the crisis that the US is facing, the UK and other countries, they are highly in demand. So I don't think, firstly, it will be wise to do, given the skill set of where we've increased the wages. But secondly, politically, given that the ANC is facing its own credibility issues, it will need the public sector going to an election in 2024. So I think it's going to be one of those, like the Treasury track record since 2009, where you promise so much and you deliver so little.
You have to give me one green shoot. Did you see any green shoots?
The green shoots really are that, at least through the increase of debt, I hope that this money can be spent wisely, and we can now know better that some amongst our public sector are crooks, as we've seen the PPE procurement. That be careful, watch every cent, follow the money where it's going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was Economist Dr Lumkile Monde.